Medicine Hat, my home, my heart. Sunshine City, where dreams all start. Gas City grit in every part. Medicine Hat, my home, my heart.
This is a politically centered podcast.
Stephen Campbell, welcome to the Politically Centered Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
It's good to have you back. We had a previous interview, but this is your official city council interview because you have filed your papers and are now running for office for the second time around.
I sure am, and I'm looking forward to it. I think I'm going to have a good go at it this time. I'm a little more prepared and ready to go.
Yeah, it's last time was like clawing. Everybody was like clawing themselves out of this deep dark hole called COVID. So it's a little bit different this time around. Definitely a little more friendly. Yes. Yes.
Thank God.
Yes, definitely. Yes. So the all the other interviews I did allow the candidates to talk about themselves a little bit because the goal of these interviews is to let people know you on a personal level as if they were sitting having a cup of coffee with you. So that being said, please go ahead. Tell us about yourself and your personal life.
Okay, well, I moved here in 1996 on the 21st, which is my birthday. It'll be 29 years exactly. So, and I'll just say it was snowing when I moved here. So I was born and raised in Sudbury, Ontario, and got my class one and came out here to join the oil field. When I came out here, Medicine Hat was the place to be. Between my spouse and I, we're a blended family, so I have two of my children and two stepchildren. With that, we have six grandchildren on the go right now. So, and they're all in the area. So, my goal is to make sure that they stay here in Medicine Hat, and that's one of the reasons why I want to run for Medicine Hat, so they don't leave us. I could say my experience in my career is, well, obviously I joined the oil field, trucking, since I've been out here. I've done a lot of that, 11 years at Goodyear. I've done quite a bit, actually. Went back to school in my 40s. When I was at Goodyear, my knee didn't allow me to continue. So I made the decision to actually go get my business degree because I wouldn't have it any other way. So I struggled through that, and it was a struggle in your 40s, but I made it through with flying colors. And one of my goals when I got my business degree was to eventually sit on city council. So here I am.
So this is realizing your long-term goal that was always the plan was to enter politics on some level. That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I've always been interested in politics. I wouldn't call myself a traditional politician. I would say I'm more centrist than most. So I have some liberal views, not a whole bunch anymore, it seems. They all kind of weigh in a way.
I have stated many times that I used to proudly call myself a liberal before Justin Trudeau ruined it for me, and now I'm a conservative. Thanks, Justin. So I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, actually, it was Ralph Klein that actually converted me. I really loved it. So when you move out here and you come from Ontario, and in the 90s, there was high taxes still. I think it was 15% tax. And like it was quite a bit to live in Ontario, and there wasn't very many jobs. So coming out here, you see no taxes, GST, but you see Klein bucks, you see very reasonable living. Cost of living was cheap, and Medicine Hat. Uh, I've been all over the country, like I really have. I've been coast to coast, and Medicine Hat seems to be one of the friendliest places in all of Canada, and I really enjoyed it here, and that's why I wanted to lay my roots here.
You know, that's the one thing I've commented on when people ask what it's like here. And you know, it's got its negative and it's got its positive, but one of the things I've always loved is that it's a reasonably sized city where there's everything here that you need, but yet when you walk down the street, you still see the same people that you know wherever you go. And as it's that warm, friendly, small town feeling. But I think for the first time since I've lived here since 2009, over the last 3 years, that is definitely changing. We have a little bit of a big city feel for the first time. Have you noticed?
Yeah, big city feel, but with a small town want, I think. Yeah, I see that a lot of our projects are more aimed towards big city living. The Stroads, for instance, the roads they built on Division and whatnot, their master plan for the roads, all this stuff is all big city stuff, and it's not good for Medicine Hat. Some of these ideas do work in big cities, but for Medicine Hat, it's not the place to be. So
All right.
I
Well,
think.
comment on Division Avenue South. You started it.
I'll tell you when Charles Macron, I think that's how you pronounce it.
Emmanuel Macron,
Yeah,
the president of
Charles.
France.
No, no, Charles Macron is the one who started Strong Towns.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I
Yeah,
just heard
yeah,
the
yeah.
last name, didn't catch the first part. Go ahead.
No worries, no worries. So we paid him $178,000 to come here and give us his ideals. I knew when they were doing all these things that what was coming to Medicine Hat, and these roads were one of the things. He coined the phrase. If you look at what a strode is, and a strode is not quite a street, not quite a road, and he coined that as a bad plan. And so roads shouldn't be like that. But in actuality, what he's been doing is pushing for these stroads. Like, so they're not quite a street and they're not quite a road. They're a strode. And now we're put into bicycle lanes and it's becoming dangerous to even navigate down that road. They didn't do anything correct. So I'll just take an example. When you come to a stop sign, if you have a property on the corner and you have tree blocking that stop sign so somebody can't turn, right? You can actually get a fine for that because it's obstructing view. But when they built these roads, these new roads, they actually put everything in behind trees and everything, and it's actually obstructing the view of everybody. On top of that, it looks like the bicyclists have the right of way right all the way down that road. That becomes dangerous not only for the driver who can't see past these the way they have them. So they want to nuzzle up to get up to the road because it's such a big area to try to get on that road. And if somebody's not paying attention, they could just drive right into them because there's no recourse for the bicyclist. Everything's set up just for a bicyclist. And don't get me on how an emergency vehicles go down. Imagine two fire trucks going side by side on there. you know, like I could go on and on and on and on about how horrible of a design this roads, but I could see where they're thinking, oh, it'll look so pretty. But yeah, no, I knew when they started bringing in these plans from Michel Macron, I think that's how you do it. I'm gonna have his name, Charles, we'll call him, that we were gonna have a problem. When I went to the city to see what was going on in the first meet and greet when they were doing at the city, they were doing planning and they had all these booths set up. They had strong towns in almost every booth and throughout the whole city. So they put all the plans into strong towns. So everything we've been doing in the city has been big city, 15-minute city planning. And yeah, that's got to end. So this master plan, I'm glad it's being put off until the new council is on because I think the whole city needs to know what is involved in that and what's going to happen if we went forward with that. And I think we need to end it. I'm pretty sure we need to just end it altogether and start from scratch.
I made a post on my page, and as well as I threw it on Roast and Toast, just because of the amount of views that page gets. It's handy to get the word out sometimes, and the admins are always very good about that. The about how Medicine Hat was one of the three pilot cities for the Strong Towns project, which is a variation of the United Nations 15-minute cities project. And
Mhm.
wow, some of the comments under there, I think it was over 300 comments. And there's a lot of stigma around it, especially that comment. Now, I don't know if the person you're talking about made that comment, but that famous comment that you will own nothing and you'll be happy about it, something like that. Now, I don't know where that came from, but that is associated with the 15-minute cities, is it not?
Yeah, was it Soros? I think that's who it is who made that comment famous. You will own nothing and you will be happy. And that's the whole agenda thing. That's a wormhole that you don't even want to go down, trust me. And does it get all the way down into the municipal politics? It does. And you're right. This is where it comes from. It all boils down to this. So actually, all that's what all these strong towns are is big city grants. Well, here's what the founder of Strong Towns actually did, which started his career. He actually bankrupted a small city. How did he do that? He came up with the idea that if we're going to fix up some roads downtown, how about we get all these grants from the government and improve our sewer system? And so what he did is he talked the town, into building. Now remember, it's a town, right? Not a city. Into building this big sewer system. And it cost millions. It was all paid for by the government. But what they didn't realize is the cost to maintain it was astronomical. And it actually bankrupted the whole town. So it would have taken them something like 50 years to pay out the debt and whatnot with maintenance costs and everything like that. So he himself even considered that, can't remember his exact words, an atrocity of city planning. And that's not exactly what he said, but he himself even put down his only work. He didn't get fired there, but he moved on. And this is how he started his Strong Towns. He actually uses that same exact ideology and brings it into other cities. So one might think that when they were redoing downtown on Third Avenue, that's the same mentality. Let's build a sewer system. Let's upgrade everything because why not? You know, we could get grants, we could do this, we could do that. Now, I'm not saying we can't maintain the sewer system, but that's just an example of did we need to put all that time and effort into all those projects, make all the businesses cover the cost because the sewer systems to the business, that would be their cost. So there was a huge cost. They lose the business. And what did we accomplish out of it? We got less parking spots and less customers downtown because everybody kind of moved on somewhere else after what 2 years of construction.
Parking downtown has always been an issue. Always, always, always. Famously, when I was CCDH chair, it was something that came up every time we talked to somebody, and we had zero control over it. That was always a municipal government mandate. And do you see any feasible solution to the parking problem downtown? Because there is very limited parking. I think at one point we did a calculation to how many spots there were downtown, and there was a lot of spots, but they were focused in certain areas, and people either didn't want to walk or it was, minus 30 outside. I mean, who can blame a 110-pound woman for not wanting to walk 5 blocks when it's minus 30 outside? I don't.
Yeah.
And then of course there is the homeless factor, or whatever word you want to use. I know there's stigma around that, but so if I get flack for that, sorry, I can't think of the other term. Um, but what is there a solution there? Because I don't understand with the layout of our downtown how you can expand parking and make it more convenient, other than potentially using what is it called when the cars park like this?
Parallel parking.
Yeah, and no, not
Uh,
parallel,
yeah, I know you're. Yeah,
diagonal
yeah,
parking.
diagonal
Yeah.
parking.
Oh yeah, famously Michael Harrington, who used to run Valhalla Pure Outfitters, was a huge advocate for that, and he was trying to push towards two-way streets downtown because statistically it showed that traffic moved slower and people had less pedestrian accidents. They hit other cars less. They noticed stores more, and it actually increased business if people drove slower. So giving them two-way traffic basically encouraged them to drive at a slower speed, as well as under other benefits. And diagonal parking, according to the research Michael did, he said that diagonal parking did allow for more cars to park downtown. But just while we're on the subject, I was curious what your thoughts were.
No, that's interesting thought. I never heard that one before, but I think that's something that we could actually venture if we should look at every possibility and see what one would work best for Medicine Hat instead of going to outside consultants and having them tell us what they think, because it's Medicine Hat who's going to make the ultimate decision. So when you mention that, I visualize it in my head, and I'm thinking, oh, you know what? It would shorten up the sidewalks a little bit, but you would be able to squeeze a lot of cars in there. And is that the solution? Maybe not. you
It,
know,
it's
but
yeah, it's a big issue for a lot of people. So
yeah,
it's a
but I like the two-way
much
traffic.
bigger problem, a much bigger solution than just change the way people park. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's so much you could do with the parking downtown. Like there's a million ideas, and I've heard a million of them, including city employees being forced to pay for their own parking, and they probably won't park anymore. That's just a joke, mind you, but I've heard every solution you could think of, right? And so, what's the best solution? So, if we put them all together and maybe come up with an idea, I think city transit might actually have something that could help with that situation too, because um, we have to change our city transit no matter what. The more people talk about, the more I research it, the more I realize that our city transit is in trouble.
Did you
Um,
see my post on it the other day?
I
Yeah.
did, and that was interesting because you got the FOIP for the cash boxes for Medicine Hat, and when you go to transparency. Now that we're on city transit, I'm starting to like this subject.
Absolutely.
Now that we're going to transparency, the one thing that should be transparent is those cash boxes. Why have we been hiding them? It was easy to find Lethbridge or Calgary or anybody else's because it's open to the public. That's because they got nothing to hide. And I'm not saying that we're trying to hide something here in Medicine Hat, but I think showing what our deficit is and everything like that, I was floored. So I think we need to look at a lot of aspects when it comes to city transit. And I seen somebody talk. I think it was your post, and people were really putting down the city transit. And I was reading a lot of them, and I was kind of surprised. One thing I will note, you didn't mark down wages or anything like that. When I was looking through it in the past, I noticed that we are the highest paid city transit employees in all of Canada, pretty much. It's quite hefty.
So I did look
Um,
for things like that, but all I could find from the FOIP records I have was department transfers. When you broke it down within the departments, that fell under privacy laws, so a lot of that stuff wasn't available.
I think it works out to a full term employee through the union. I think it works out to 14 years or better, something like $38 an hour. And that's pretty good. That's high end for all the country. And I'm not saying that they don't deserve that kind of wage or whatever. But you did point out that there are 11 part-time employees too. Um, the one thing I do know, there's a lot of overtime for city transit. And if we have a lot of part-time employees who aren't getting full-time hours, but there's 40 hours a week, 60 hours a week in overtime. That's an easy solution right there. We get more people working full time and we save costs, especially if people are making the high end or getting all the overtime, right? And again, I don't like taking overtime away from people, but if you can walk in and take 20, 30 hours a week of overtime every day and you're making that kind of wage, it's pretty good coin. And when we're not making a profit in city transit, operational costs have to come into effect, and that's one of them. And so we could look at something like that, but that is not the only one I would go after. That's just a little coin in the cash box, if you will.
Somebody
Um,
made a really interesting comment, who obviously understood how the entire system worked. I don't know who it was. I didn't click on the profile, but it was a very fascinating comment that he made on one of the sharers to one of the municipal election groups that I shared the post to, that said, the problem is we're taking a loss per rider, so the more riders we get, the more money we lose because we're losing money every rider who gets on the bus. And I didn't even have that in the article. This person, I don't know how they came to that conclusion, but based on what I'm looking at, it's he was right. It's
Well,
a
38,
very interesting.
$38 an hour plus operational costs. You got like just those two aspects. Like, I'm not saying everybody, but even $25 an hour. How many people is that guy putting on a bus? Does that cover $25 an hour, right? Um, we got to look at that, and if not, why? So, I really have a hard time with these small, more efficient buses. I did some research into it. I did a lot of research into a lot of the aspect of city transit. So, we'll start with the small, more efficient buses. The cost of a small, more efficient bus isn't the motor, it's not the tires, it's only the frame a little bit smaller and seats. The cost is actually just thousands. It's not a whole bunch. Overall cost of maintenance over the course of a year, zero. Same engine, same tires. The overall cost of gasoline or fuel over the course of the year is hundreds. So small efficient buses aren't really small and efficient. That's just a myth. And yeah, I'll tell that to anybody. These things don't really work.
Interesting. So you're telling me the small buses are just smaller?
That's it. Yeah,
Okay, got it.
there's nothing, there's no different in operational costs, and they could tell me I'm wrong all they want, but yeah, there's going to be a little difference in fuel, a few $100 because it's a little lighter, but you're still got to put the same amount of fuel in. It's got the same size gas tank. It's got the same engine. It runs the same tires. It's the same frame, just a little smaller with less seats in it. That's it.
I would
So,
be curious if any of our transit buses have ever been full.
well, and that's just it. So what you have to do is how do you fill the buses, right? So right now we're running, I believe we're running a spider system. You go there, you come back, you go there, you come back. These are your routes, right, throughout the city. So that's your spider system. But what we have to do is upgrade our spider system and do a more roundabout system. So you'll have your spider system, but you'll have your roundabout system too that'll go around the city. I'm not saying this is the solution either, but that's one of the solutions. And I think the biggest solution, if you want to increase your ridership with city transit, is you have to have a very appealing bus terminal. Like you have to have at least a little coffee shop where an older lady or gentleman want to get off, have a coffee while they're waiting for the transfer. What we got now is we're in a parkade, maybe a security guard, nothing around you. If you want a coffee or a snack while you're waiting, the transfers, from what I hear, are just not very great. And
I do agree with that to a certain extent. I've lived in a lot of different cities, as you have, and the central transit buildings look like Christmas all the time. They really do. That's a very
yep,
good point. It never really occurred to me until you just brought it up that they're all glass and they're transparent and they're all lit up and there's coffee shops on the inside and some of them have little delis if that's even a thing anymore, but I'm showing my age. But
yep.
it's that's a very fascinating point. It is really not very warm and inviting and friendly.
No, and I remember I grew up in Sudbury when I was young. I rode the transit system out there quite a bit actually, and I'd hop on the bus on Barrydown and bring me all the way down to the downtown. When I got off, there was a Chinese food place there. There was a little pub there, a couple of shopping areas, another little restaurant. It was right by the shopping center. You go in there, it was just a blast downtown. Like it really was. And I look at and I follow Sudbury every now and again. That's where I grew up, and I see that they're working hard to always improve their downtown, and I was impressed. They have a lot of the same problems everywhere across the country, but they still really work hard to keep that momentum downtown, and they have it figured out. Like even though we have that homeless problem, and they have it just as bad there, but they're finding ways to deal with it that's for a city double our size, they deal with it a lot better than we do. That's for sure.
Yeah, the unhoused, there we go. There's the word I was looking for. Homeless, unhoused, population
Unhousable.
unhousable has grown all across North America. and it is a huge problem that has gotten monumentally worse since COVID. And we are not there is no place immune to that. I said in one of my other interviews, I'm aware that that Bow Island registered 3 homeless people for the first time in their history.
Yeah.
So it's a big problem. But in my previous interview, which was yesterday with mayoral candidate Drew Barnes, he did say, we need to take charge of it, and we need to stop having that idea of it's too big of a problem for us to fix, and just take charge of it and fix it. And at least that's the impression I was getting from his comments. Do you think that's possible? Like, really, I don't know. I'm kind of in between on it. It's such a massive problem. There's so many things causing it. What is, I don't expect you to cure homelessness, but what's the solution?
There's solutions. There is absolutely. I call them the unhousable. That unhoused term just recently showed up, and I was kind of chuckle on it because if you talk to city employees, if you talk to housing, if you talk to social services, if you talk to the police, you talk to all of them, they'll tell you it's the unhousable problem that we have a problem with, and that's the people that can't be housed. And so we look at downtown, and I could say that the majority of the people downtown probably have a place to stay, whether or not they're in a hotel, staying at a buddy's house. The majority of those people aren't living on the street, but they're there for the services. And downtown's got all sorts of services. So that's why they congregate down there. It's their little community and whatnot. I think what we need to do when it comes to the people who are truly on the street, we have to come to a solution on how do we fix those ones. And there are some, but the majority, like I said, like just unhousable. They're just got kicked out. They got
Would
stayed
you,
with
would you
buddies.
agree that it's in many cases it's a mental health disorder that comes before
Absolutely.
homelessness?
Absolutely. I think the majority of people, it's either a mental problem or an addiction problem or a combination of both. And that's pretty much all you'll see on the streets. And that's where it makes it sad because we should, as a society, help these people. And I don't mean helping people by bringing them a coffee and a donut. That's not really helping them because they're just going to sit there on the street when their coffee and donuts done. They're still in the exact same situation. So my honest opinion is we need to actually a state of emergency in this city. We need to have a tougher approach. And if that's the impression you were getting with Drew, then I agree. We need to do something and not just sit on our hands and do it. And by that being said, every single person who's on that street when all the shops are closed and everything, they need to be asked, what's going on? What's happening? Like, would you have a place to stay? No. Are you intoxicated? Yes. Like, okay, so if you're intoxicated and you can't function and you're on the streets, what used to happen is you end up in the drunk tank if you had too many beers or something like that. And we don't do anything like that at all. And I'm not saying the drunk tank's the best place for them, but if there are people who are clearly intoxicated, walking around like a zombie, out of their mind and not clear of mind, we need to do something with them. Maybe not jail, but maybe into the hospital, maybe do a 6 week check in. We have to keep taking them off the streets. And if you keep doing it, they're not going to be on the street anymore.
Well,
Period.
I have said in the past in conversation, I don't think I've ever said it on camera, but that a lot of our unhoused or homeless population are there for the sole fact that they either don't have the ability or they don't want, which unfortunately can be convoluted. It can be both. They don't have the ability to follow the system and the rules we have put in place for them so that they are not homeless. And I think a lot of them genuinely don't have the ability to navigate the system. They find it confusing. They don't know how to use the resources that are available to them. And some of them are just not going to follow rules no matter how much you give them. Here's $1 million. Just follow this one rule. No, I'd rather live on the street. And you know what? I don't care what people think about that statement. I've had it said to me by numerous people on the street who I know personally. And and you cannot have a conversation like this and not generalize a little bit. So for all our black and white thinkers out there, I think I speak for Stephen and I both when we understand there are exceptions to everything we say. So please don't
Mhm.
go on the thread and say one person, so we're wrong, okay? Because
Yeah,
I comments like that are just stupid. They are. I am tired of
yeah.
them. There's
I've met
exceptions to every rule, always.
Yeah, I met many people who say they want the help, and then you try to give them the help, and they just totally just
Uh-huh.
no, I don't want it. And I've been through a program where I tried to help people. It was a program for 10 people. I went through 18. Only one was good out of the 18 people that went through my program, and he made it through. But all the rest were the same thing. Like I actually had a guy who was a felon. The cops were looking for him. So like, yeah, he wasn't going to work out too well in my program. But that's what I'm trying to say. Like there are ways to get it. They enter into these programs, but the consequences are if they don't follow through with the program, they just end up on the street and wait for the next program. And anybody who says they can't navigate through the program, I get that point, but I think there's enough help here in Medicine Hat, and I see it all the time downtown that the people are begged, "Can I help you? Can I help you? Can I do this for you? Can I do that for you?" So they're there. It's just it's the addictions and stuff like that. So if they're not of right mind, they're never going to want that help.
Two things on that subject. So that I want to cover before we change subjects here is one is the placement of the new mustard seed. What are your thoughts?
Oh, I'm all over the place on that one. I have no idea. I want to look
It's
at
really
the. I
nobody
want.
knows how it's going to turn out. It's a very, very honest answer. Yep.
I think like any place could be viable as long as we enforce a few rules. Okay, first off, with the new mustard, if the mustard seed is going in there, it looks like they are the police going to patrol the area more? And that should be a no-brainer. Okay, we're going to have the most vulnerable here. Like they have problems. Sometimes they do things they shouldn't. Are there going to be more police presence there? Where they were before, if there was a constant police presence there and everybody was told they can't do this or they're getting arrested for drug use or intoxication or theft, nobody would have been hanging out there. And that's what we have to start doing is enforcing things. So it doesn't matter where the mustard seed goes, is it going to be still enforced for the safety of the community that's there? Now, is the store going to be robbed? Is the those apartment buildings, are they going to have problems? And this is where it all comes back to enforcement. And
Just so I can give the other side of that, because that's pretty much, how the complete idea behind the politically centered podcast was, that also comes at a taxpayer expense of municipal dollars, though, right? Is
yeah,
we have to pay the police officers to arrest them, to do the paperwork. Then we have to pay the staff in remand and all the lawyers in the judicial system. There we go, I said it.
mhm,
And so sadly it's true that people have a price tag on them, right?
yeah.
And I think that's a lot of what it comes down to.
I think if you took a poll, Jeremy, and said we're going to spend $1 million just off the top and going to hire more police officers, and all the petty crime in Medicine Hat will be enforced starting today. If your daughter's bicycle got robbed, they're going to track that guy down and find him, and they're going to fine him and charge him for theft under $5,000. The city would welcome it. You want to spend 2,000, 2 million, 3 million? Stop the petty crime in this city, and most of our problems will go away, and that includes addictions, and the people living on our street. I think it all goes hand in hand, and a lot of people agree with that. It's all about enforcement. We have to start enforcing the little laws. If we don't enforce the little petty laws, those little petty laws become something bigger, and it always does. So bicycles is the most popular thing getting robbed in the city. Like when you start one bicycle and then the guy's like stealing 20 bicycles, the guy's stealing 40 bicycles. Now he's got a bicycle ring and everybody's got a bicycle and the guy's making a fortune. Nobody says a thing. Like
Yeah.
why? This needs to end. Everybody knows where the drug houses are, the thief
Well,
houses
how
are.
much of that though is the federal catch and release program, right? And
Support for today's episode comes from The Phone Whisperer, Medicine Hat's best kept secret since 2010. Serving Medicine Hat and area for over 15 years. Created by the mind behind iFix phones. Need a fix? Call 403-488-1220. The Phone Whisperer. Welcome home, Hatters.
I
That's yeah.
I don't 100%
I don't know how
buy
it breaks
into
down
that.
either after the
I don't
arrest.
buy
Yeah.
into that, Jeremy. I really don't. Yes, the federal government is dumb with their catch and release program, but if a guy stole a girl's bike, your old daughter's bike, and he did it 3 times and got charged 3 times, and then he stole this and he's got 4 charges, now he's got five, now he's got six, seven, eight, nine, 10 little charges, he's going to go to jail. Like, yeah, the feds are stupid in letting these catch and release, but if you keep piling up their fines, they're going to be so great that they're going to end up spending time in jail. Maybe it's 6 months, but in that 6 months, maybe they'll clean up because they don't want to go back to jail for 6 months again, right? We have to start enforcing every single little crime. And yes, the feds have a lot to do with that, but we could fight back. Like, we can't just lay the blame on the feds all the time. I hear that way too much. And that is actually a pet peeve of mine. Oh, it's the federal government. Oh, it's the provincial
I can
government.
tell.
Well, go to your municipal government and tell them what you think. And maybe you'll get somebody who will advocate and get some stuff done in the city, like petty crime. You hit the petty crime, maybe we'll be a poster child.
Yeah, I'm
I
hearing the
believe
same
what
theme from you and several other people is stop shirking the responsibility and just get off your butt and do something about it. And
yeah,
I can't say I disagree.
yeah, and I will be that one person. You elect me, I will advocate to make sure that the province and the federal government, the provincial government and the federal government are held accountable for what is of interest to our citizens. Okay,
Pre-
and that's right now our homeless, our unhousable, our petty crime. We solve all that. We got a good little city again, among other things, like we get in utilities and all that stuff. But that's, I think, the major focus. We really need to make our city a beautiful place again. That will in itself help attract business. When we start becoming that safe place again, when we are the ones who solve homelessness, we will be that place everybody wants to go again. And that's where we have to find who we are in Medicine Hat. Who are we again? I think we've lost our image. We don't know who we are. We have to find that again.
on the subject, since you mentioned provincial, Premier Danielle Smith's mandatory recovery centers that she's building. For those of you who may not be aware, there are two massive facilities being constructed, one in Calgary, one in Edmonton. And although the laws have not been completely drafted, they are in the works. The idea is that after, I believe, a certain amount of offenses or certain amount of times you are picked up while you are intoxicated with a substance, and I don't know if that includes alcohol, that you will be mandated to go into recovery to get clean. What do you think?
I think that's a great idea. I think it's mostly the illegal substances is what we're
Yes.
looking at. So alcohol probably wouldn't be covered on that or marijuana.
It depends if
But
you're robbing people to feed your alcohol addiction, I would think.
exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. But I think these recovery centers are much needed. They do have success. We used to have mental hospitals that are pretty much null and void now. You don't see them too much anymore, and we see an increase in mental health. So I think we do need to start looking like if we want to help the most vulnerable, we have to help them and not coddle them. And I hate saying that, I really do.
No, it's
But
okay. I think the more clinical term you're looking for is we're enabling them.
yeah, we are absolutely.
And
Like
we
if you
are to
bring
a
them a
certain extent.
coffee,
Yep.
a donut, tell them like you matter, keep up the fight, you're doing well, you're doing what you're supposed to. That guy actually believes or girl believes, yeah, I'm doing the best I possibly can. But we need to actually grab by a hand and say, come here, see over here, we can help you over here. Let's go and try. And I'm not saying the general public should do that, but our civil servants should, like our civic servants should our police force, all our housing, there's SafeLink, there's all these programs downtown. We got to start pushing them all in the right direction. Um, Probably a couple of bad examples there. I'm trying to think of organizations off the head, but yeah. But you know where I'm getting at with that. We need to start pushing them in the right direction and not letting them sit on the street. And
Well, the other side of that argument that I've gone, because I mean, there's certain things I don't like about the mandated recovery. I like the fact that she's doing something about it instead of talking about it. That I really like. I think we've reached a breaking point in our society where we just don't want to hear the talk anymore. We want action, and that is what Premier Daniel Smith is doing, is taking action. So regardless of what you think, at least she's not doing nothing. Um,
exactly.
but the other side of that is the demographic that will say you can't force people to get clean. They'll get clean when they want to get clean. You can't force them because they're going to get clean. They're going to walk out the door and they're going to do drugs again right away.
Yeah, and you can't stop them at most of the times. But what are they doing to get the drugs? Are they like causing? Are they stealing or whatever? Like, how are they getting the drugs? Are they in the crime ring? Like, we have to start enforcing all the laws too. So if they don't want to get clean, well, there's other consequences too. You can't sit on the park bench with your big bong and smoke your stuff, right? Like, it's just not. We're just not going to allow you to do that anymore. So if you don't want to help, I don't know what to say. Sometimes incarceration is the best place for some people, and if they don't want the help, it's because they haven't cleared their mind yet. So sometimes 6 months, a year, sometimes is what's needed to be away from it 100% and not have any opportunity to have it. And then when their mind is clear, maybe they'll see there's more to life than those drugs, right? So
I've known five people who have died from drug overdoses. They were not close to me, thankfully, but I did know them, and I remember all of them. And it's very sad. And you know how they all died? They didn't die having a good time. They died alone in people's basements. It sucks.
yeah, yeah.
Let's
And when
let's
I
do
was
something. I
downtown,
agree.
doing the hotel, Jeremy, I've seen probably 20 people brought back from the dead and probably 10 people dead in like a year, or at least what looked like they were dead because they just basically come and pick them up. No lights, no nothing.
Yeah.
And it's sad. Like, why are we allowing this to happen? And maybe I over exaggerated 10, but I remember one winter, I could say there was at least 4 or 5 bodies on the streets when I went to work because I was always there 4 or 5 in the morning. So,
I don't know if allowing was the word I would use, but definitely we've gotten to the point where we're like, nobody knows what to do. Let's just try and ignore it and use band-aids and hope it gets better. And it is not getting better. It is getting worse. And it's getting monumentally worse and very quickly.
well, there's a building in the light industrial area. Remember when you had the flood they used as a jailhouse? There's tons of empty spaces there, and they're secure. So, like, you see them on the street, they don't want to go to jail, they don't want to go to the hospital, they don't want to go in there, you're going to go in there. Like we just got to put them somewhere where they're not killing themselves, like they can't stay on the street. And I don't think it's that hard if we made a bylaw or something that nobody is allowed to sleep on the street, like enforce it. Like
I
we could do
believe
that.
I believe vagrancy is actually a crime on the book somewhere.
Yeah, well, there's so many things on the book that's not enforceable. Like
Yeah.
nothing's enforced, so you have to reinforce it. So it doesn't matter if there's intoxication. There's all these things. There
Public
was littering in the
intoxication. Yes.
park. I remember littering in the park. It was a few years ago. The police were all the MHAT Police Department were happy that they were able to rescind the bylaw because the people on the streets were actually cleaning up after themselves. As soon as they rescinded the bylaw, garbage everywhere again. So you have to keep. Sometimes you have to keep enforcing these bylaws. So okay, so no lawyer like the vagrants or what did you say? What did you call that again?
Oh, unhoused.
Oh yeah, but yeah, like so you can't live in the parks. You can't get intoxicated in the parks. Like we just got
Oh,
to
you're
start
talking
enforcing
sorry, the vagrancy law.
vagrancy.
Yes. It's
Yeah.
an old
So we got
term.
yeah, we just got to start enforcing these rules. Um, Pass a few bylaws. It cleans everything up. Like I go downtown. What is there like 3 or 4 pot shops, a bomb shop, There's like all sorts of stuff down there, but I think we allow too much of those industries in there, and there's not enough shopping areas and stuff. And you mix them all up with all the services we have. It seems like we're only trying to get one demographic downtown. So we have to try to get, and like the mustard seeds moving up there. Why couldn't other offices maybe move in there too and integrate into one system? And I think we need to give some incentives to have more shopping downtown. I think we got a lot of restaurants down there right now, so we got to try to get people down there, and that's a lot to do with maybe improving the city transit would do that. And we talked about the city transit actually. One of my ideas is actually sorry to get back to that again.
It's okay.
I think we need to put that bus depot where Tin Can Alley was, just as an idea or there around, and give ourselves a brand new little bus depot that people would be proud of.
Actually, I kind of like that idea. Yeah.
It's actually a really.
Yeah.
I went down there and I daydreamed a few times, and I could see it totally happen. It'd be a beautiful little transfer area, and anybody who's working at City Hall or anything, it's right there too. And it's right in the heart of where all the action is. So it'd be
And it's
very
wide open too, so people will feel more comfortable using it, especially if the place is full of windows like City Hall, but the ones you could see through.
Yeah, and you start
Interesting.
improving the transit system downtown, then you give some incentives for some shopping areas. And yeah, we got a restaurant. We could add in a few more restaurants, definitely, because once you start getting more people in there, that's what entrepreneurism, people are going to see, oh, got a lot of traffic. Maybe I want to open up another bakery or something, or a coffee shop, or another restaurant,
Do you
maybe
think
another
that
pub.
the conversation about, one conversation we constantly had downtown with the CCDA was what needs to come first, the chicken or the egg, right? Is how do we encourage business owners to stay open late so that people want to come downtown after 5 o'clock? Then the business
Mhm.
owners would chime in and go, well, we don't want to pay staff. We're a small business if we have no customers. So there's the chicken and the egg conversation. And
Yeah.
I think we all kind of agreed after it was all said and done, we weren't going to put the stress on small business owners. And what needed to come first was accommodations downtown to have a permanent population living
Mhm.
downtown. Sorry, I've got a fly annoying me. And now they are renovating the Assiniboine Hotel, or affectionately known as the Sin Bin. So I'm
And
excited
you're
to see what
absolutely right.
happens.
You're absolutely right. And actually, I'll just say this: we far too much. What the city does is they try to rely on the business owners that are existing businesses downtown to improve our downtown area. And once again, they've done it again by giving loan incentives through Invest Medicine Hat and whatnot. Essentially, what they're doing is trying to get businesses downtown to improve their business by spending money, and by them spending their money and getting some incentives and some loans and whatnot, interest free, that's going to bring people downtown. And we got to stop putting the onus on the business people downtown to bring the people, because that's the city's job, not their job. They opened up a business, and you've been hitting them with construction and no parking, and you're not putting any services down there. I'm glad to see Rib Fest was back. That's a little boost. But what do we do downtown? Chili cook-off was canceled. Geez, I had four friends complaining on Messenger. They're like so mad about chili cook-off. Like, like why did we cancel that? We got nothing downtown. So we
Yeah,
have to
yeah.
put things down there and stop relying on the business owners with loans and incentives through Invest Medicine Hat and Entrecourt. Instead, we got to start putting money from our pockets downtown and not relying on the business owners' pockets.
Spectrum also left downtown famously, which yeah, I fought kicking and screaming, but that's another story. So
I think that should be back downtown too. I think we should have a lot downtown. I think there should be
yeah,
something almost every weekend.
yeah, it's Lorraine, who I miss a lot. Because Lorraine and I didn't agree on a lot, but she was inspirational and she inspired me a lot. And it was one of the few people who I broke down and cried when I found out she died. It was a huge loss to lose
Me too.
Lorraine. And anybody who doesn't understand what a loss Lorraine was didn't hasn't lived in the city long enough to appreciate the footprint she left in it. Because
I agree.
everywhere you look, there's Lorraine.
Yep,
Yeah.
100%. She was an inspiration for me too. And if anybody doesn't know this, she's the one who put on the one and only debate the last round. So
That's right.
she put it out of her own pocket too. So
Which I famously did not show up at, as several other candidates didn't as well, just to honor Jim Turner, which was also very sad. But that was the only reason I didn't attend. But yes, putting
yeah.
aside that, the power plant is the other hot topic of discussion, especially since I've been breaking down the FOIP records. The power plant lost $8 million last year, which confuses people to no end. And I have tried to explain it to people, but it's a 30-minute conversation, so we cannot have it on this video. I am trying to work on a little documentary style of video, but Johnny Harris, I'm not. It's a freaking nightmare, so I'm trying really hard. But explaining how the power plant works, but we are subject to world gas prices here in Medicine Hat, unlike some other centers who fiscally buy their own electricity. We do not buy our own power from the power plant. The actual lines come from the power plant to our house, to the substation, whatever. But on paper, we don't buy our own natural gas and we don't buy our own electricity. So we have to buy and sell it on paper. And we actually lost money last year to the province of Alberta. And this is what they call a deregulated system, which is a strange term for a term that has more regulations than it did the other way, but that's what they call it. And this year, the power plant is probably going to take the equivalent, if not a couple $1 million more. 3 years ago, it made $200 million plus dollars. So in the grand scheme of things, you win, you lose. We're still way on the plus side. I get it. But I think with federal carbon mandates coming in and Prime Minister Carney rearranging them, not necessarily getting rid of them, that this is not going to improve, and our little city is going to get hit harder than most places because of our power plant and federal carbon mandates and crashing world gas prices. What do you think?
uh, that's it. That's when it comes to the carbon pricing and all that. I actually think that that's going to reverse here real quick. Otherwise, Canada's going to be in trouble. That's the optimist in me. Um, I think we're sitting on a gold mine here, and I know a lot of people think, well, oh, we don't have the natural gas we used to, we don't have the oil we used to. Yeah, we do. Um, I know every inch of these prairies from here to Grand Prairie to Hardisty to Regina, all the way south, Calgary, all the way down to the southern border. There's a ton of oil and natural gas under the dirt, and we're we're gonna eventually go with it someday. Is it gonna be today? Is it gonna be next year? Is it gonna be in 10 years from now? I believe it's gonna be soon. Just the way the market, the world is going right now and whatnot. But that being said, we can't put our eggs into that basket 100%. We got to be careful for us, for our citizens and everything. So we got to be careful on what we're investing in. And like I said, there is a ton. When my last bad in the oil field, 2018, I was working Hardisty area. I was hauling crude oil. The drilling that was going on were 2 feet apart. They were literally drilling 2 feet apart. And they were putting all these wells in and they're hooking them all up to the pipeline and everything, but they're all capped, every single one of them. And they're not producing any of them, even though they're all full. They're just waiting for that market to open right up.
Right.
And so this is where I could have some advantage when it comes to utilities. When it comes to natural gas and the oil, I've got over 20 years experience in that. I think 20 whatever years, but I know my gas and oil. Um, Now that I have a business degree, I'm understanding the workings of it, and I got to talk to a few people inside. And the business people always tell you, "There's no oil, we can't invest, we can't invest." But I think the higher ups are saying, "Oh, there's a ton. We're just going to hold off on it." And so, that being said, should Medicine Hat invest in that or go solar or windmill? Like, yeah, it's all over the place. When it came to the solar, though, I'm definitely not for that. I thought that was just a fail. That's on land we shouldn't have bought. Uh, is that why we're building the solar farm is for data mining opposed to saving the world? Are we going to make any money on that? Are we making any money from the data mine by doing this? There's no jobs, there's no nothing. I think the solar panel power plant has more of a backdoor dealing feeling than actually trying to help Medicine Hat. I don't think it comes back down to the strong town thing. We're going to build it. The maintenance is going to be astronomical. In the end, we're not going to know what to do with all the garbage that we have when we have to replace them.
Yeah, I mean I think no matter what direction you go, there's that problem of what do you do with the waste and what do you do with the materials you need to harvest electricity, and it seems like there's pros and cons to everything. I know
Yeah,
that
it's solar.
the solar discussion is very divided, I'm aware, yes.
I don't think the technology's there to build massive solar fields yet. Maybe in 20, 30 years, we'll be able to build one little solar panel the size of a small car that could generate the same electricity as 100. Maybe that would be beneficial. You know what I mean? Windmills, that's no good either. Like I've heard so many, like uh, they're just destroying the fields and everything. But I remember 20 years ago hearing about a windmill that they were going to put up in the stratosphere. And that one windmill they put up in the stratosphere, hanging like a kite, would be able to produce enough energy that would be the equivalent of, I think, 50 windmills or something.
I
So,
remember that. It was a big balloon with a turbine in it, and
yeah,
yeah, I remember that.
yeah. And that was like brilliant, but we kind of went backwards with our technologies now. So, yeah. Solar panels were around forever. They belong on your roof. We haven't really changed the technology on them. You need batteries. Yeah, like they're just.
So let's talk about your campaign a little bit. As I've
Okay.
said before, that I don't specifically read the candidates' profiles because I like to go in this a little bit blind, and that way I can converse honestly with people. So one of the topics from your platform.
Well, the big thing for me is tackling the crime, the homelessness or unhoused, bringing business to Medicine Hat, and that would obviously all coincide together. Um, lower taxes, of course. With the utilities and stuff, we kind of went off subject on the utilities. Our administration fees are a little high. I think we have to look into that. I think that when I pay $50 a month for natural gas administration fees and zero consumption, maybe we could look at that a little bit, and everybody sees the pinch on that. Every time we seem to get a break on our utilities, something happens and it goes up in different ways. And that's usually one way it goes up. If we're running our own utility, why is there so many administration fees that fall under the same an energy company themselves? We shouldn't have that many administration fees when we have our own employees. Um, what else do I want to go on? Our taxes are out of control. Um, I think that our valuations are a little high, and that's just another way to generate revenue. So yeah, your property might be going up in value, but you're paying more in taxes. It's just another revenue. I think we're going to see a housing drop here soon. With these apartment buildings being built. So somebody told me there's 450 new units being built, and I thought, wow, that's a lot. So I looked into it, and it's actually 285 units being built.
I mean,
Um,
altogether 285?
yeah,
Because
with the apartment buildings going up in total,
yeah,
it'll be 285 units in the grand
interesting.
scheme of things.
Yeah,
Um,
there's that one beside Dollarama, which looks huge.
yeah.
There is one beside the Manors, behind the police station, closer to the river that's going up. And then
Mhm.
we have the Assiniboine Hotel, and there's a couple of smaller projects going on as well. So I don't know
Yeah.
about any others.
No, that's about it.
Yeah,
All that will accumulate to about 285 units. So
interesting.
you
Yeah.
figure Per unit, I think they do an average. It works out to two people per unit. So that would mean that we would have a need for 550 people that are looking for homes in Medicine Hat right now. And there isn't 500 and some odd people looking for a home right now in Medicine Hat. And actually, if you look at most of the apartment buildings, there's vacancies in every apartment building as we speak. So I don't know why we're building so many of these apartments. I kind of like the one by the Dollarama, the one on Dunmore there. I kind of like that one. I thought that was a good area for it. But if we're building all these units, what for? And we don't have that many people running around downtown unhoused, right? Like, so I see that our property values might start coming down if less people are looking to buy homes. That means you're not going to get what you want for your home. I think it's going to come down. I think prices are a little inflated right now. So when I moved to Medicine Hat, the same house that's going for 300,000 right now, it was under 100 or something like
It's
that
what
in
I've been
96.
hearing. Yeah, that's a incredible jump in housing prices. I think Kevin Monson mentioned that he saw a house going for $100,000 more after he left Medicine Hat and came back. The same
Oh
house.
yeah. Well, you couldn't buy out. There was no houses for 200,000 in '96 when I moved here. Everything was under that, and then all of a sudden, over the course of years, you couldn't find anything for under 300,000. So yeah, that's quite a big jump. And when the oil field is starting to drop down and our housing prices are going up, our industry is going down, no growth, we're losing business, but yet our properties still keep going up. Eventually it's going to end, right? So, and that
Yeah.
comes with the cost of living. And so I think most of our, and I'm just guessing, I think most of our properties are a little bit inflated.
What do you think of everything going on with City Council and Mayor Lindsay Clark? And I avoided asking that question my first couple of interviews, but things have not been resolved. Things are only, from my perspective, maybe they're not escalating, but they're definitely not coming down. They're staying at a constant level of wow, whatever you want
Mhm.
word you want to use. So where do you think of where we are right now with that whole situation and the past 2 years? Go ahead.
Yeah, well, everybody knows this is probably the worst council we've ever seen in Medicine Hat, and now people are starting to see that right across the province. And yeah, you know how that goes. But like dysfunction, our meetings are 3, 4, 5, even 6 hours long. Nothing's getting accomplished. It's just nothing got done over the course of 4 years. We went through too many CAOs. We got one that's on vacation right now. We're paying her well to sit at home. Like who this council knows they messed up this whole time, and the way they messed up was by allowing their CAO to walk all over them. Dysfunction, like what happened with the mayor was wrong. We shouldn't have paid Ann's fees. Um, when it comes to Mayor Clark's fees, there's argument that she went around the process is wrong. But in fairness, if she had to ask Ann for to cover fees, well, I wouldn't want to do that either. So there's so much that you could unfold over the course of the years, but the only conclusion is nothing got done. Our city is angry. Uh, Transparency was promised the last election, and we have the most untransparent city of all times. Like you can't get nothing for anything. Like even with Kelly's little complaint, that's ridiculous to tell you honest to God truth. I can't believe that they could take a complaint, punish you for it, and not tell you what the complaint is. Like just ridiculous.
Oh,
That's the
you're talking about why they pulled the links off of
yeah.
the yeah, I don't I haven't spoken to a single person who liked that
No,
move yet.
like
So
if she did
yeah,
something wrong, tell her what she did. Like
yeah,
simple
yeah.
as that. You can't punish somebody and not tell them what it was. Like that's what our city has been doing to everybody in this city, everybody. And I hear the story time and time and time again. But this is actually a great example. I went through. I tried to figure out myself what the problem was with that, and that's just my guesses or whatever. But when you come to a point where you're going to punish a citizen, tell them what it's for. Like that's you shouldn't have to fight for that at all. So this is the dysfunction of our city council. FOIP got out of control. I've had to use FOIP over the course of 2 years just to get my final inspection for the restaurant. I was denied. And when I got my 2 years of FOIPing to get this, two FOIPs, I finally got what I wanted, which proved that I actually did pass all my inspections in the restaurant. And so I just look at, well, is it just, are they red in the face and they don't want to admit it or what? Like, so, and now they just totally ghosted me over it. These are the things that we have to change, like
I think
in
you
the
literally
city.
just defined red tape.
A
I'm
ton
pretty
of it.
sure for
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
everybody
No,
out there who's tired of hearing red tape, that was a good explanation of red tape.
yeah, well, it is,
Yeah.
and I'll use that as an example. Like I'm taking over an existing restaurant that's been around for a long time. Um, so when you take over an existing restaurant, there's usually never red tape. So that's right there should have even happened. I passed all my inspections. I had a thermometer missing in one cooler, and there was a hole in the ceiling that I already identified and was working on fixing. All the inspectors sat, had lunch, all good. And then when it came to the follow up to make sure you correct your measures or whatever, there was a whole list of nope, you can't do it. You need to build firewalls, windows, walls, new fire suppress system. Like they just nailed me. And it's like, why? And then I never got the final report. They just said no.
I,
And
I I
so,
I agree. It's a massive problem, and
yeah.
one of the reasons why I'm on my city council platform 4 years ago, I did list red tape mistakenly because without realizing, everybody's like, "What does that mean?" We're so tired of hearing that. But a good explanation of it, to echo what you're saying, is when I was chair of the CCDA. You would walk into these buildings that were 50, 60, 100 years old downtown, and they'd be damn near falling apart. They haven't been upgraded in a very, very long time. Yet there were stores operating in there that had been in there for a very long time. The moment that store shut down and somebody else wanted to rent it, it was like, okay, well, because the old tenant left and the new one is here now, this building needs $1 million in upgrades. And what is going to happen? It's going to sit there empty. I realize there has to be a compromise in between leaving old decrepit buildings, empty and putting people in them because they're not safe.
Mhm.
But I lost count 4 or 5 years ago, even before COVID hit, how many empty buildings were downtown. And when I asked why they weren't being sold and why there weren't people moving in, their explanation was that it costs too much to upgrade these old buildings,
Yeah.
and it cost us less to literally sit on them and pay the property taxes. So they
Yeah,
sit
that's
empty.
definitely, yeah, that's definitely overstepping our boundaries here because the owner of the building's looking at, well, now it's unrentable. I have a building I can't even rent because nobody's going to rent it if they're going to have to spend $100,000 in renovations.
Yeah.
Like, and that's like me when said and done, they had me pegged at over $50,000 in renovations, and that's bare minimum. And I was into the restaurant already for $18,000. It cost me, so I lost $18,000, and that was quite a hit on me. It hit like that was a lot of money for me. Like I'm not a rich person, but that's what the city did to me. And it's not even the first time. Like we tried to open up a food truck 4, 5, 6 years ago, and we had the business plan together. We put money down, $2,000 then, so it wasn't as bad. $2,000. We had a food truck being built, stainless steel, right, brand spanking new. And it was brought to Invest Medicine Hat and Entrecore because they operated together, and I think they still do. And they just flat out said no. And I'm all like, why? Well, they said if you open up a food truck, you'll take away from restaurants. And I'm all, that makes no sense to me, but whatever.
I
That
remember
summer,
that. I remember that argument. Yes.
that summer, four food trucks came out, and one was made out of pallets and recycled material. And I'm thinking, like, why would you say no to me? Like, what did I do wrong? I actually spent $2,000, had it all professionally done, submitted properly. Like, I had a complete business plan that I worked months on. and they're allowing people to do it who is making it out of pallets and recycled material.
That
So
was
the
a
picking and
huge
choosing.
pet peeve of mine when I was CCDA chair was the mentality of let's keep all the competition out because we don't want to lose our business. And I
Yeah,
had never ending arguments with some of the downtown business owners to try and get them to understand that that is not how things grow. That is how you stop things from growing.
hmm,
And the idea is that you let a dozen food trucks come downtown, they're not going to stop going into the restaurants. You're going to get all of those customers who like those food trucks following them into the downtown core. And then
exactly.
eventually they're going to get tired of eating poutine. I love you, Pootie's Poutine. It was just a good example. But, and they're going to migrate over to one of the other restaurants for a bite here and there. And, it's a backwards mentality. And this city is horribly guilty of that in
Yeah, I
every
was even
way.
going to put poutine on the menu. Like, but it was like, and I had
Pootie's
to really,
Poutine's awesome.
yeah, actually, one of my, I'll tell you my little secret was I was going to have a breakfast food truck. I had this amazing breakfast burger that would blow your mind. Yeah, and so I had some great ideas, but that's too, like, obviously, you know, I like cooking, but that's too, like, I had a food truck in a restaurant that was just denied. And there's no way I'll ever try to run a restaurant in the city again or open up a restaurant again because of the red tape. And nobody should have to go through that. So a lot of me running too is to make sure that this doesn't happen to anybody. I want to eliminate all of it. You shouldn't have five inspectors inspecting your restaurant to begin with, you know. But if you're going to have the three and they all pass you, why would a fourth one come and just say, nope, you can't have it? Like, we can't be doing this, you know, like, uh, especially in that case where it cost me $18,000 for that one is what I took in losses because I still had to feed the seniors that were still living there for 2 months and almost 3 months for some of them. But I was still feeding all the seniors, and all those costs came out of my pocket waiting for this restaurant to come through so I could get paid. And so I put all the costs out of my pocket and everything like that. But because I couldn't get my license, I didn't get paid, so I took the loss. So it was hard, and nobody should have to take money out of their pocket and take a loss when you have a viable business plan in order. And again, like that business was a really good business. It made money, like it would have done well, like you know. And even the saddest part is Lorraine just passed away then, and that was the restaurant I was taking over.
Yeah.
And I'm told I can't have the restaurant. Part of her legacy was that restaurant. And if I'm not allowed to have a restaurant, the family lost out on the restaurant too. So that means they lost out on the purchase of the restaurant. So the city said, no, you can't have a restaurant. Lorraine's restaurant is not allowed to be sold or anything. So they just messed a lot of people up in a short period of time. And I don't think they realize the consequences of what they do sometimes.
I don't know what that building was before 2009, but when I moved here in 2009, just some quick history to close our conversation here. That building that you had your restaurant in, it was pretty much condemned above. There was nobody living in it. I think there may have been a few suites that were open that were being legally used by intermittently by our unhoused population or a homeless population. And in the basement was a restaurant. She may have actually been the only East Indian woman in the city at the time when I moved here. And it was the only Indian restaurant. She cooked, you had to look her up. It was by word of mouth. She wasn't listed anywhere. She had a little East Indian restaurant in there with no seats. It was just a kitchen. You went down there and you picked up these trays of curry. And I moved here from Winnipeg and I missed the ethnic food when I moved here. And my now ex-wife and I found her and we ordered regularly from her and she made the best curry chicken. And I don't know what happened to her, but then Lorraine did famously come in with her investors and her partners and renovate that entire building and stripped it right down to the studs. Now, I spoke to Lorraine briefly about that and she did not tell me how much it cost, but when I asked her, you could see the blood drain out of her face and she's
Yeah, it
like
was quite costly.
way more than we wanted it to. And she said
Just
that
under a million, I heard. Yeah.
yeah, she didn't give me a number, but
Yeah.
she said at one point they couldn't figure out why none of the toilets were flushing and they had to go through the piping system and they found spots in the pipe that were about 2 feet long that were crammed so tight with used needles.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I'll never forget. She told me about that. It was just like jaw dropping. But
Yeah.
that's a good example of taking an old, decrepit, rundown building and turning it into something beautiful.
I'll give you the whole story on that. That's our original arena, believe it or not.
Oh,
That's where our
really?
original arena
Oh,
was.
I
They
didn't know
tore it
that.
down. They built the in there. And it was, and yeah, okay, eventually it turned into a bad spot. Before that was actually one of the nicest places in Medicine Hat. And I was going to try to mimic that. So when I was going to open it, the restaurant I was going to open would have mimicked hers, and she was very famous for maybe her chicken curry. She was also famous for her prime rib Sundays, I believe it was, and I was going to bring it back eventually.
Mm.
So, and they did have one famous person that stayed there, and I got banned off of Facebook for sharing the picture, believe it or not. It was Justin Trudeau's mother.
Oh, no. You want to okay, I gotta tell you something really quick here before we close. So during the Donald Trump Joe Biden election, I posted a picture of Donald Trump and Joe Biden side by side in bathing suits. And it was a funny meme, and I had just copied it from another site, and as I thought it was hilarious, and I posted it, and Facebook flagged my account for posting nudity. Like, hey, Mark, who on their right mind would want to see Joe Biden or Donald Trump naked? Give me a break. They weren't naked. But I tried everything to get that restriction off of my account. And literally, they put such a large restriction on my account for posting nudity or pornography from that picture that the restrictions just came off in July. I kid you
No,
not. They
I,
would,
I
they,
got,
it was
I,
bad.
oh, I know. I got banned because she was with her boyfriend and got caught.
Oh,
I'll show you the picture. You don't want to share it on Facebook
no, definitely
because
not on Facebook. No, not
I
on.
got that was the first time I've ever gotten a timeout on Facebook ever.
All right.
Don't want a
Well,
picture.
mental note, coffee date, bring the picture.
I will. I'll bring all sorts.
All
There's some
right.
fun ones. Yeah. And so, like for the villa, I got quite a history on it. So I'll give you a couple. I'll give you a couple ideas what happened throughout the course of the years, and there was actually some interesting stuff there. So, and yeah, I did turn into the end after a while, and that's what people famously know it for. But it's got a lot more history to it than that. So,
Interesting. Yeah, the Assiniboine is very rich in history as well. I think the history behind that is it started off as one of the most luxurious hotels in Canada and then evolved into the fire hall before it burnt down while it was the fire hall famously. And then the sin bin and wow, it's good to see something being done with that
yeah,
very, very sad looking building.
I agree. Kind of miss that place. That was a blast back in the day.
I'd never been in there before. No, but
Oh
I
man.
heard stories. Oh, big stories.
Oh yeah. I was there when the Brits were there. They were out of control sometimes,
Oh,
but
yes.
it was quite a dance bar actually. It was nice actually. It was fun. So back when you used to enjoy downtown, so we used to go there all the time.
Yeah. But thank you so much, Stephen, for coming on the Politically Centered podcast again. I hope you do well during the election, and I wish you the best of luck.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Take care.
You too.
This is a politically centered podcast.